Hey everyone, Happy New Year. I just couldn't let the new year take place and be brought in past midnight without saying hi and Happy New Year to all of you here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Dominic, Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year. It's 2021 and it's always a time that everybody takes inventory, evaluates their lives, evaluates their goals and their dreams and their wishes and what they would like to see take place in the next year. Yo, DB Shashi, this could be a call-in show. I just wanted to say hi. I apologize that I gave no notification for this. I did not anticipate sitting down at this point in the night, but I just had to sit down for a couple minutes again and say Happy New Year to all of you. Hey, Roy, great to see you. Thanks for the like. I always appreciate your support. I've noticed in the last couple live streams that you jumped on board late and said hi and thank you near the end of the stream, and I did not have the opportunity to say hi and to say thank you. Sooner Thrawn, Happy New Year. So glad 2020 is over. If only it was that easy that when the calendar flipped, that all our problems would go away from the previous year, and 2020 was one to forget. All right, hey, we got some calls coming in. I don't know how long we're going to be around tonight, or maybe we don't have any calls coming in. Somebody called and maybe thought better of it. I don't know. We've got a big playoff slate tomorrow, of course. Ohio State, Clemson in the nightcap, preceded by Alabama and Notre Dame. And then, of course, the two New Year's Six games early in the day. We've got Northwestern taking on Auburn, I believe, in Cincinnati and Georgia.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
It's Ben.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. I just want to call in and say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
2020, I guess, is mercifully over and almost on to a new football season. We got a couple games today, so real quick. I know this is real late, and you probably don't want to answer many football questions, but
sure
I would like to ask you.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, but I would like to ask you. So, do you see, because I even though it's not 2020 anymore, and it's 2021 now, it's still a 2020-2021 football season. We've seen a lot of upsets, right, over the 2020 season. We've seen, Liberty and Virginia Tech. We've seen LSU in Florida, so on and so forth. So, with all that, do you think there is any way, how likely, in your opinion, do you think it is that we see a third Notre Dame versus Clemson matchup?
How likely is it that we see Notre Dame beat Alabama?
I guess, yeah, that would have to happen. So, yes.
Well, the first thing I'll say is, though, there was anticipation based on the oddity of this season that there would be a lot of upsets. Actually, statistically, it's pretty much on par with previous seasons. So it's not been an odd season in regards to upsets.
I guess it just feels that way.
Yeah, maybe it feels that way. But if you go through any college football season, I'll let you know this, Ben. If you go through any college football season week to week and you track the games in the top 25, between 20 and 25% of them almost every week, like clockwork, are upsets. 20 to 25% of the games. So there's usually somewhere in the range of 18 to 20 top 25 games because a number of the top 25 teams are either off or play each other. So there's about 18 or 20, 23 top 25 games, and 4 to 5 of those every week are upsets. And many of those are double-digit upsets. So that's not uncommon. But I get your point. So you're looking for a possibility that Notre Dame beats Alabama. I, like everybody else, just thinks that Alabama's nearly invincible. But are they? Of course they're not. We have seen teams come and go that we thought were unbeatable, and it turned out that they weren't. I am giving Notre Dame a 10 to 15% chance of winning that game.
Good. So yeah, I mean, I like Notre Dame. I don't really personally like Clemson. I just don't want to see another Notre Dame Clemson matchup. Which I want to know what you thought of that. And then so after all of that sort of stuff that happened last night, or I think it was last night times. Not last night, because technically it's this morning. But on Saturday night, when all of that stuff happened with Florida, I won't go into detail, but we saw, Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson come out. Do you think that Florida kind of has a good future ahead of them with quarterback? Like, what is your opinion on Anthony Richardson and then, what's his name? Carlos Del Rio. Yeah, Carlos Del Rio, who's coming in this year.
Do I think that Florida has a good quarterback situation?
Yeah, what do you think about it?
Well, I think that my thought about Del Rio. See, I think you asked me this question a few nights ago. I am not a high school football evaluator at all. I know nothing about high school football. I don't care about high school football. I don't follow recruiting except for what I deliver on here when I bring guests on. So my aim is to supply all of you with a lot of recruiting insight and information, but it doesn't come from me. I don't have any interest in it, and I don't have the time to be some kind of recruiting analyst. It would just be a complete waste of my time to even try to be that. So I have no evaluation on any high school athletes that go anything beyond what you could read on Rivals or 247 Sports. But I think it sounds like you track my videos pretty frequently. So as you see, I bring on the beat writers that follow that on a regular basis and provide that information and that knowledge. So I don't have any evaluation there about high school athletes coming into college. Until I've seen them play on a college football field, do I have any evaluation? Now, the thing that I will say about Florida's quarterback room is that they have one of the better quarterback developers in the sport, in Dan Mullen. And that's been proven over and over from the beginning, from 16 or 17 years ago in molding Alex Smith all the way through Tim Tebow and Nick Fitzgerald to a certain extent in college, and Dak Prescott, and now Kyle Trask. Of course, Felipe Franks was a quarterback who threw 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions 2 years ago, and then turned into a quarterback who threw for 24 touchdowns and 6 picks the next year. So Dan Mullen's got a tremendous track record of knowing what to do with quarterbacks.
Because, I've seen, and the other thing is, I've seen a lot just, Uncle Lou, I just watched one of his videos actually about Mullen just, not being a good coach. And Uncle Lou, overall, I think is pretty good, but I think a lot of people, after a loss, especially like that, and I don't blame them, they magnify a lot. And personally, I see a lot of stuff that definitely went wrong in that game. I think we all do, but and maybe it's probably because I am a Florida fan, and Dan Mullen is kind of the savior of this program after 2 lackluster performances when it comes to head coaching. So, I want to say that. So, I personally, I don't really think that he's a bad coach. Obviously, he's not a bad coach. Like you just said, he's a great quarterback developer. So, yeah, I just wanted to call and ask you a couple questions, but also to clear the air in the chat. I'm 12 years old. I'm not like some 36-year-old with a high-pitched voice, just to clear the air there. So that's all, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ben. I would not be concerned if I were you about Dan Mullen.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. All right. Good to hear from Ben tonight. Yeah, Uncle Lou likes to get after Dan Mullen. I am no great defender or apologist for Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen's a high-end college football coach. Is he great? Is he legendary? We will find out at some point. We can answer that question in 10 or 15 years. As it stands right now, absolutely not. Is he in the top 10 to 15 of his profession? Yes. Did I rank him above Kirby Smart before this season started? I did. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. Happy 2021 to you. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael. How are you? I'm doing just fine.
Not too bad. I got to ask you this. You've been watching college football a little bit longer than I have.
Unfortunately.
Have you ever seen a fiasco at the end of the Mississippi State Tulsa game like today? And what tensions do you think both teams could be facing from the respective conferences?
Have I seen anything like that? Well, there was quite a melee following a Clemson-South Carolina game about 15 years ago. That comes to mind. But anyway, I did not. So I had that game on. I wasn't locked in on it, like watching play for play for play for play. I was on the phone for much of the game, and so I just knew what the score was and was just tracking the score. But I have no analysis on the game itself. And then I didn't even know that that happened at the end of the game until I had ESPN on later, well, for the next game. I was more intently watching the West Virginia Army game, and then at halftime, of course, they went back to the melee. And, you know, it's one thing when there is a confrontation between two or three players, and then there's a lot of pushing and shoving, and then it involves a large group of players from both teams where it's hard to distinguish who's perpetuating the fight and who's trying to break up the fight. And there's just a lot of pushing and shoving and even some half punches thrown. But in this melee, from what I could determine, it was quite a bit more serious than that. Like, there was a Mississippi State player who kicked somebody, who gave a running kind of karate kick at somebody. And certainly they'll be able to review the tape from a number of angles and initiate action.
I was just wondering stuff like that. I would say, of the best game, what was your impression of Army State? That was a pretty good game. And also, what do you think about what Ball State was able to do to San Jose State today?
I was surprised with the Ball State outcome. I did not predict that game, but I'm surprised because the MAC has by far the worst winning percentage in bowl play and postseason play in the last 5 to 10 years. The MAC has not shown up in bowl play. The Mountain West has been a much better conference than the MAC. So anytime that you would take, in most years, the MAC champion against the Mountain West champ, who has typically been Boise State more than half the time, that's no contest. So I was surprised to see. I just saw the highlights. I saw there was a pick six. That's pretty much all I remember. So I didn't watch the game. I DVR'd the game. I'll at this point, I'm not going to watch it, but there's just too much other football to watch. So I'm surprised that Ball State won the game. But Ball State obviously was on a roll. They won their last 6 games of the season. For them to go out and to roll up as many points as they did against Buffalo was impressive as a 2-touchdown underdog. So the Ball State effort I'm impressed with. Sure.
I was saying another thing too. Don't be surprised if Ball State picked to win the MAC again next year.
Yeah, you should know something about that. I know that being in the state of Indiana there with Purdue, you probably get a lot of Ball State news and know a little bit more about them than most people.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a good game today, but when they had to pick six and then they scored the first 20 points, I thought San Jose State. I can't talk. San Jose State stuck for it. Ball State was just a good. Mike Nugent is a good coach, and I wasn't surprised. He stays there in a few years at Ball State, maybe moves on to a bigger school, maybe a Big Ten or a AAC school.
Yeah, he's doing a nice job. There's no question about that. Now, in terms of the Army-West Virginia game, I really enjoyed watching that game. I know a lot of people don't like to watch the service academies because of the offense that they run, the triple option, and they don't throw the ball. And I don't think Army threw a pass the entire game. They usually throw 5 or 6 or 8. I don't believe they threw a pass the entire game. But I find it so refreshing to watch a different style of offense. Almost everybody, excluding Wisconsin and a few other teams across the country, run pretty much the same offense. And so I find it boring.
Yeah.
And so it's refreshing to me to watch Army run and just execute the triple option. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Now, which game are you going to be more intently focused on tomorrow? The Auburn Northwestern Gator Bowl, or is it the Outback Bowl, or the one with the Cincinnati and Georgia? Is that the Fiesta Bowl? I can't remember.
It is the Peach Bowl. So the Peach Bowl kicks off at noon, and so I'll get to see an hour, which is generally about the first quarter and maybe a little bit of the second quarter before I have to turn over. But I'm much more. I'm just a sucker for the SEC and the Big Ten getting together. Anytime the SEC and the Big Ten play, I'm going to be watching that game. So I don't even have to think about it. I'm watching Northwestern and Auburn. Now, if that game's 21-0 at halftime and the other game's close, then I'm going to flip over. I'm going to be running DVR on both games so that I can watch them both later in their entirety. But I'll go with Auburn and Northwestern first and foremost for me.
Yeah, you think Ramsey will be able to have a good game thrown tomorrow against Auburn, or do you think the key for Northwestern is to pound the ball running against Auburn?
Well, I think that they've got an opportunity with Peyton Ramsey to have him actually run the ball a little bit and break contain. And I think that they'll probably run the ball 60 to 65% of the time is what they're going to do. Minnesota had success running the ball against Auburn last year, and Auburn had a much better defensive front last year than they do this year.
All right, then, Mark. Thanks, Ben. Have a good night.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate the call.
Yep. Okay, bye-bye.
Again, Happy New Year to everyone on here, 37 on the line. We had an incredible show last night. I don't know where all these people came from, but we topped out at 491 people online last night. After that awful excuse for a football game between Florida and Oklahoma last night, we topped out at 491. We've got close to 9,000 views on that video from last night, just our conversation here for 2 hours at the Voice of College Football. So thank you. The way that you guys, in addition to smashing that like button, as Alabama football fan Roll Tide reminds us right there, take these videos and send them out there on social media. Many of you are on Twitter, you're on Facebook, you're elsewhere. Just grab the video link, throw it out there on Twitter and on Facebook, and let people know that we're here. That would be much appreciated. People don't know that we're here talking college football every day. So thank you so much for that. Again, almost 500 people online last night. That was exceptional. I apologize for not sending a notification for this. I did not in any way intend on being here to wish everyone a Happy New Year, but I have time certainly at this point, so I'm just going to say Happy New Year, and that's why I'm here. I will take calls to talk college football, of course. That's what I love to do more than anything. Minutes before we jumped online here, I released a Georgia video that we shot with Palmer Toms of Dogs 247 Sports earlier today. We talked about JT Daniels' debut on the big stage. So, of course, JT Daniels, as Georgia quarterback, took over the final 3 or 4 games of the season. Really was off the radar because Georgia was out of the playoff race and out of the SEC race at that point. Was playing inferior competition, Mississippi State, Missouri, somebody else in there that wasn't very good. And so this is really going to be an opportunity for JT Daniels to show out on a national stage for the first time as a Georgia quarterback, as, of course, Cincinnati takes on Georgia. So we posted this video. We discussed the playoff proposals from Luke Fickell and also from Kirby Smart during this video. So check out the video we just released with Palmer Toms from Dogs 247 Sports. I'll be releasing 2 videos tomorrow to break down the Ole Miss Rebels. They take on Indiana in the Outback Bowl on January 2nd. And then also we've got the Indiana side of that with Rivals guest. We've got Mo Dean saying Notre Dame will beat Alabama 40-38. I would love to see it. Not that I root for Notre Dame or hate Alabama, but it would be a monumental upset, and it would just be fun to watch, and it would be a great story. For us to sit here tomorrow night and talk about Notre Dame, Alabama, that would be phenomenal. So what we will do tomorrow is, if there is any time between, and there should be, if there is a gap of time between the Alabama-Notre Dame game and the Ohio State-Clemson game, then we'll jump on here for 20, 25 minutes, whatever the gap of time. We are not missing one play of the Clemson-Ohio State game. I certainly am not. So we're going to take you from the end of Alabama-Notre Dame to the kickoff of Clemson-Ohio State. So you'll see me right here between games for however long that is. And if the first game is a complete rout, I believe we did this last year when Oklahoma was getting just annihilated by LSU. There was no reason to sit here and not come on and talk about the game when it was a 5 or 6 touchdown game in the second half. So we jumped on in the second half of the LSU-Oklahoma game because nobody had interest in watching LSU run off tackle with 5 minutes left in the game. So if that's the case, hopefully it's not. Hopefully we have a fun, competitive game to watch. I kind of doubt it. But if we've got a blowout, then I'll jump on here and we'll break down the game early. If it's 42-14 with 8 minutes left in the game, I'm going to be here and we'll talk about it. Because really anything played after that is meaningless, garbage time. With Georgia, Cincinnati, and Auburn and Northwestern playing, you can pretty much be sure that I'll, in addition to taking in those games, will provide some instant analysis on those games. It might have to come after the Ohio State-Clemson game. We'll see, especially if I'm going live here with all of you. 500 on the line live last night with almost 9,000 views. So thank you for that. And whomever was out there that don't normally watch, let's get them back in here. SPH Huntsville, Happy New Year, Mark. Appreciate that. From North Birmingham, raised Huntsville resident. I was offered a job at Huntsville. SPH, maybe you can help me out with this. The Huntsville TV station, I'm sure there's more than one. I think this was the CBS, channel 17, does that sound right? It was like WFAY or AYY or something like that. I don't remember. It's been so long. That was back in like 1998 or 9, something in that range. Then I was offered a job as the sports anchor for the 5 o'clock and the 10 o'clock show every night. Won't go into why I turned that down. It certainly was going to be an upgrade in pay at that point. Razorbacks rule. Happy New Year, everyone. Yes. No more 2020. I know people are happy about that. Like it's magical. We still have a virus out there, right? Or did that stop at midnight? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. Happy New Year.
Hey, Dominic. Happy New Year.
How did you know it was me?
I've talked to you a few times. I think maybe a few or a few dozen or a few hundred or whatever it's been. So I picked up on your tone. Is that a good thing?
Oh.
I would think that it is, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm
doing all right. Man, I mean, 2020 has been rough because of COVID, but let's hope 2021 it's better.
Yes, let's hope.
So, man, I mean, the West Virginia Army game, definitely decent.
Yeah, it's a good game.
And I'm happy that West Virginia got the win.
Okay. Is there a particular reason why?
Well, I mean, I know that they have not done well during the season, but they definitely deserve it.
West Virginia deserved to win and Army did not?
No. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to any Army fans, but I mean, Army has been decent, if I'm correct.
Okay, yeah, they have been. West Virginia was the favorite in the game, by the way. West Virginia was supposed to win the game. They were a substantial favorite.
Oh, wow.
They were a 9.5-point favorite.
Oh, well, I mean, wow. That's definitely surprising right there. I mean, they were 9.5-point favorite. I mean, that's good for them.
All right, Dominic, anything else?
No.
Appreciate the call. Enjoy the football tomorrow.
Oh, I definitely will.
Good to hear from Dominic. Yeah. 52 on the line. Appreciate you jumping on board. And again, I apologize. I did not intend on doing this, but I've got time, so why not? And I wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. We've got the special purple. I thought that was kind of festive. That kind of just spoke New Year's Eve to me. Purple. So, of course, Cincinnati and Georgia at noon Eastern time. Auburn Northwestern at 1 o'clock. I think that's the ABC game, and then the two playoff games tomorrow. Army and West Virginia. West Virginia came back. They were down 21-10 in the fourth quarter. They came back with 2 touchdowns and one. I believe the score was 24-21. And then Ball State laid a whipping on Mountain West champion San Jose State. So the MAC beat the Mountain West, which is rare, 34-13. And then in the early game, we had, Mississippi State held off Tulsa 28-26. Quite the melee in that game. A lot of discipline is going to be delved out in that one. William, Happy New Year. Mark, love the show. Keep up the fantastic work. I will contribute to Super Chat into 2021. I encourage more listeners to Super Chat. Well, William, you touch on a great thing here because I hate to talk money. I hate to be a pitch man. I hate to be a salesman. Unfortunately, that's what I'm going to have to be here in 2021, as I'm going to have to go out there and sell the show and sell the channel to sponsors. But I'm not a salesperson. I would like to hire one someday. I thought I had one hired about 2 years ago, but it didn't necessarily work out. But we would hope to pick up a salesperson here pretty soon. So if you've got any expertise, any knowledge, and you have experience in sales, or you're just really good with people and really good and have the skill set to do it, even though you've not done it to date, hey, look me up, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Otherwise, I'm going to be a salesperson myself. And then in addition to that, William, you hit on a good point, is that this channel and what we're doing here, our vision is going to thrive and succeed based on your individual contributions, based on how well we do on Patreon, based on sponsorships, based on other revenue streams. So thank you, William. Appreciate that. And if those people out there that don't want to contribute on Super Chat, you can always look me up on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. It's a more direct way. You don't have to go through YouTube. There are certain benefits to doing it that way. Again, it's Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. Just search Mark Rogers TV. I can't imagine there's anybody else on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App that go by Mark Rogers TV. If there is, I would love to see them, if you could point that out to me. But you'll see my smiling face. I have no idea what my profile picture looks like on any of those apps, but you'll see me. You'll recognize me, I think. Mark Rogers TV on Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo. Is anybody a fan of the Twilight Zone? I've got the 24-hour marathon. I think it's even maybe 48-hour marathon of the Twilight Zone. Not that you can't look up these things on Netflix and whatever else these days, so you don't have to wait around for the Sci-Fi Channel to do it, but just kind of old school. Good stuff. George, good to see you. Happy New Year. David Knight, there's my man. Army is fun to watch. Love it. Now, there's a Buckeye fan that commented earlier that he hates, there he is, OG Bucky. OG Buckeye had stated earlier that he hates the triple option. Roy Boy, UGA Cincy sounds good. Cheryl's here. Happy New Year, Cheryl. OG Buckeye. Pete Ramsey is so bad, I do not think he can throw the ball more than 30 yards. I would maybe challenge that. No, Peyton Ramsey's not a great quarterback. Peyton Ramsey's a good quarterback. He allows his team to do what it needs to do. He did cost them in their losses. It could be argued that Peyton Ramsey let that team down in those losses. Peyton Ramsey, this is the kind of stuff I would love to do. Man, this would take a long time, and I don't know that I would get the views to justify it. But coming out of this season, want to rank all the quarterbacks in the Power 5 and the Group of 5, because there are quarterbacks in the Group of 5 that are better than quarterbacks in the Power 5, Desmond Ridder being one at Cincinnati, who's got a better pro future than I thought he did. I heard Todd McShay talking about Desmond Ridder's pro prospects, and they are brighter than I thought they would be. Kid Elite, I just flipped the channel when the game is on commercial so I can watch both. If you're talking about my earlier comments about Northwestern and Auburn being on at the same time as Cincinnati and Georgia, I understand you can do that, but you don't get to see both games that way. You understand that they both play like 3.5 hours, and the commercials are only a small portion of that. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Chase, hey.
Hey, Chase.
I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And with all this playoff, with all these players opting out, I'd say Florida is the worst case I have ever seen of players opting out. I mean, the Gators had going into Oklahoma about what the Gators were in 2017. That was about a quarter of the team. I mean, most of their starters quit the team. And that to me as a Florida fan sheds light on the lack of discipline that Dan Mullen has on the team. He promotes the idea of go get the money. I only want you to hit junior year and then you can do whatever you want. Todd Grantham is the worst defensive coordinator in U.S. history. He's got to go.
You're starting to convince me on that one, Chase.
I mean, Todd Grantham, I'll give you this stat. UF, pre this year, only gave up 600 yards twice in school history. That was 2014 against Alabama, and then that was again, and I believe 2010 against, I forget the opponent. This year alone, U.S. has given up 600-plus yards 3 times this season. Let that sink in. 3 times of a 600-plus yard performance on a Gator defense. Throughout these down years that Florida's had, what has been the golden standard of Florida? A first-round draft pick level defense. That is gone. The identity of our team was defense, and now that's gone.
Chase, your point is
And
well
all in all-
taken. Let me say one thing to put that into context. Your point is well taken. I completely agree that their defense severely underachieved and was an embarrassment in the bowl game. But let's also understand that teams are gaining more yardage than they ever have before.
I understand that. But to give up that many yards in a season is unacceptable. I don't care what it is. It is unacceptable to give up that many points when you won your division. It is unacceptable. You see Georgia giving up 28 points, 30 points, 55 points every week. Do you see them doing that on a consistent basis and giving up 600-plus yards of defensive play? Do you see that?
Do I see who giving up that kind of points?
Georgia.
Well, of course not. Georgia's got a better defense than Florida. There's no question about that.
Where has that level of defense gone? And again, I point back to the fact that over the past 2 seasons, Todd Grantham inherited the last era and the new era of Will Muschamp and Jim McElwain's defense. He inherited this golden standard defense. He brings in this philosophy. This is Todd Grantham in a nutshell. Blitz the first 2 downs and try to force a turnover. And if he can't get the turnover on the first 2 downs, he gives up and lets him get a first down. He gambles on fumbles and picks. And if he cannot get them, he gives up. That is Todd Grantham in a nutshell. He gave up last year against LSU. I felt like last year, if Todd Grantham was a serious defensive coordinator, we would have been one of, if not the only team to have beaten LSU that year, had he not given up those points and doing it in stupid fashion, where it's just ridiculous how many points he gives up and how many yards he gives up week in and week out. I mean, we need to get a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive, a new. I don't want to say new head coach, but I'm leaning that direction because if you look at Dan Mullen, look at the losses that he's had. Has he beaten top 10, top 3 teams while he's been at UF?
Top 3 teams?
Yes.
Okay. If you went around college football, Chase, you understand that hardly anybody beats top 3 teams. That's why they're top 3. So nobody's going to... I can almost guarantee that Nick Saban doesn't have a winning record against top 3 teams. So your point's well taken. You're basically saying they haven't beaten Georgia and Alabama. Those are the 2 teams that they played that are in the top 3 in the country on any kind of regular basis.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they beat Georgia this year.
Yeah.
So he's 1-3 against those 2 teams. They're 1-3 against those 2 teams since he's been there. But there's no way that you could have expected Dan Mullen to show up in Gainesville and just flip the script on Georgia and in year 1 take over the division. He's improved the program and the team every year. And then you beat Georgia this year.
I feel like had he started Trask over Frank the first 2 years, he may have turned the team around.
Maybe.
I mean, I think his most idiotic idea was starting Franks over Trask. What did you see in Franks that was better than Trask? Oh, he could run
It's more
his
mobile.
little style of him. Yeah, but look at the stats compared. The only stat that Franks leads Trask in is rushing yards. And that's the only stat. Passing yards and passing TDs and the completion percentages, Franks is just destroyed by Trask.
Well,
And this
understand
is all by Trask done in 1 year.
understand what I'm telling you here. Make no mistake, Kyle Trask is a better passer of the football than Felipe Franks. There's no question about that. But Franks probably is a better arm. He can like throw the ball with more velocity and further than Kyle Trask.
But he doesn't have the accuracy.
No, I completely agree with you. There's no comparison between the two guys.
No. I mean, and one of the things that I've kind of wondered is if Will Greer did not get suspended in 2015, do you think we would have won a national title that year? Had he not gotten suspended for that weed stuff while he was at UF, do you think they would have won a national title?
I would have loved to have seen what would have happened. Obviously, you guys were, 6-0, and he was off to a great start, and we saw what he did at West Virginia, but you weren't going to win a national title.
I don't know. Look at that offense. You have one Super Bowl receiver in the Marcus Robertson, Antonio Callaway, Brandon Powell. You got Kelvin Taylor, running back.
No.
You got the 11th pick of the draft and Vernon Hargrave on defense.
No, there
have that legend.
There were 3 teams in college football that were exceptional that year.
Those would be Alabama,
Clemson, and Ohio State.
Clemson, Ohio State. Do you think if Will Greer would not gotten suspended, do you think that could have been a 4th in Florida?
That would have been a what?
There would have been a 4th exceptional team that year.
You make a great point. I'm trying to think whatever the curb stomping score was against Alabama in the SEC championship. Was that the 54-15? One of them was like 54-15, and the other one was whatever it was. They were both routes, 2015 and 16. But you make a great point about the Grantham thing, in that even though Florida was underachieving under Muschamp and McElwain, other than the 2012 team, which I think is one of the more underrated teams in the last 10 years, that team should have made the BCS championship, or should have played Alabama in the SEC championship game. Anyway, those teams were so good on defense. The offense was horrible. You know, when you got Treon Harris playing in an SEC championship game. But the defenses were so good on those teams. I don't know what's happened. How long's Grantham? Did Grantham come with Mullen?
Yes.
Okay, so in
the players,
18.
So the players wanted Randy Shannon. They wanted him over Grantham. But Mullen, I guess, formed a pact with the Mississippi State coaches. He essentially brought all the Mississippi State coaches over from Mississippi State, and Grantham was one of them. And Grantham, I think, had just gotten to Mississippi State for about a year, about 1 or 2 years at that point, I believe.
Okay.
And he's been here 2018, 2019, 2020. So that's 3 seasons.
Yep.
And hasn't done squat. Had a lot of cover for him. And I would say it's a combination of things. The one thing that McElwain and Muschamp have done is they knew how to recruit defensive stars. I mean, Muschamp brought in Matt Elam. He brought in Dante Fowler Jr. He brought in Neron Ball, rest in peace, Neron. He brought in all these Keanu Neal, Marcus
May, Brian Poole, Quincy Wilson, Jalen Tabor, Jared Davis, Alex Anzalone, all these great defensive players, all of which are playing in the NFL right now. Then McElwain comes in. He gives us Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Boshawn Joseph, David Reese, Ja'Kai Polite, C.C. Jefferson, Adam Schuler, Kyrie Campbell, all these elite players on defense. Mullen comes in. Our focus for really a 7-8 year period was trying to replicate a 2008 defense. And of course, all of us, I think as Gator fans, all of us can remember that 08 defense. We had Joe Hayden, Dunlap, all those great guys. From that point on, we started wanting to replicate that defense. They would bring in guys that were similar to those players. They were similar in key aspects of those players. I think when Mullen got in, he switched the attention. And when he switched the attention, he switched it from the golden standard of Florida that's been there for 20 years, defense, to I want this hyper-powered elite offense. I want this offense that's out of this world. I want LSU or a 2019 LSU or better offense. And and to hell with the golden standard of Florida, which was defense. I think that was around the time whenever it went downhill. We of course lost, and we of course went through the whole Chris Steele situation, which I feel like he could have helped our secondary. We're not starting our secondary players at all. We're sitting 5-star players on the bench like a Derek Wingo. We're barely using a Grovon Dexter. We're putting in name guys who suck like Marco Wilson. We're promoting guys like Kyrie Elam that suck, that really suck. We're promoting them like they are the greatest things in sliced bread, even though they suck. We're promoting all these players that suck whenever we're recruiting decently on defense, but we're not playing those guys. I think that's where it went wrong. I think Mullen does not know how to eye test certain players. I don't think he knows how to eye test a Marco Wilson, a Donovan Steiner, a Kyrie Elam, a Brenton Cox, a Grovon Dexter. I don't think he knows how to eye test them and how to put them in their appropriate positions. And I don't think he knows what he's getting in the way of 5 stars and like Derek Wingo. I feel like if you'd have played Wingo, we'd be a little bit better on defense. You get the players that you see as a 5-star, that's projection of a first-rounder, play them. In a year like this, whenever your defense is that bad, what do you got to lose? Playing a guy like Derek Wingo. What do you got to lose?
No, Chase, you've certainly covered the ground. So we appreciate it. I'm going to take some of these other calls that are coming in.
Okay, Happy New Year's to all you guys and all the fans. Hit that like button, support the channel, and big fan.
Appreciate that, Chase.
You have a good one.
You have a good one, man. Thank you so much. Our guy Chase, he knows his Florida football. And of course, Jeff Collins was there that did the nice job under, I don't know if he was there under Muschamp. He was there under McElwain. I think the 3 years there in, 15 and 16, 14, 15, and 16 with Jeff Collins as defensive coordinator. That Florida defense, they had some bad seasons record-wise. They weren't great. They did go to 2 SEC championship games with inferior offensive play, but the defenses were really good under Jeff Collins. And then they had the 4-7 season, or was it 4-8? They had a 4-win season twice in the last 10 years. One, they only played 11 games. But anyway, 4-7 or 8 season in 2017 under Randy Shannon as defensive coordinator, but the defense was not the problem. Yeah, it is really telling that Jeff Collins and Randy Shannon could get that much out of the Florida defensive recruits and Will Muschamp before that. And then all of a sudden, Dan Mullen comes in, brings Todd Grantham, who had a good reputation coming in his other stops. But Todd Grantham comes in, and the defense has been awful. And the recruiting has gotten a little bit better. Florida was recruiting. Recruiting was never the issue. Will Muschamp brought in some tremendous classes. Recruiting was never the issue. It was developing an offense and a quarterback other than Will Grier. And Chase brings up a great point that in 2015, man, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened with Will Grier at the controls for the entire season. Really interesting to see. Because it was that particular year that Florida still went to the SEC championship game, but my goodness. And I get those two teams mixed up a little bit in 15 and 16, the two Florida teams. They were pretty much mirror images of each other. But in terms of who they lost to, they had one year where they were 10-1. And then somebody beat them late in the season, but they already had the SEC Eastern Division wrapped up. Somebody not good beat them. And then they lost to Florida State. They got trucked by Florida State. And then the two games against Alabama in the SEC championship game in 2015 and 16, I remember one score was 54-15. And I forget the score of the other game. It wasn't nearly as bad, but just deplorable offensive play. Treon Harris at quarterback. So Florida still continues to try to fix the whole deal. Appreciate all the Happy New Year's coming in. Thank you so much for that. OG Buckeye. Mark, not going to lie, I spammed the link to your live on 17 other college football talk shows. Yikes. So basically you took my link and put it on 17 other college football talk shows. Do it. Do it. OG Buckeye. Do it. Do it. Thank you. I told the story last night of somebody who mentioned me on Paul Feinbaum's show about a year ago. When there were crowds at College Game Day, I came up with the idea at one point. I thought, this would be great if I could get all of you, any of you that go to College Game Day when they visit a campus close by to put up a sign in the back behind Reese Davis and the boys, the voice of college football, Mark Rogers TV. That would be phenomenal. Call Feinbaum, call Cowherd. Just drop my name. We could start a big movement. All right, Boomer likes the Buckeyes to beat Clemson. Man, I have not made a pick on that game. You folks on Patreon know that I need to get that out. I did pick all the games through the first two games tomorrow. Yes, I did. I picked those games, but I have not locked in on the college football playoff games. We've got a lot of Ohio State fans, either Ohio State fans or just people that think the Buckeyes are going to win. I heard some analysis from Urban Meyer and Jerry DiNardo tonight on the Big Ten Network. That was pretty standard in talking about how the lack of reps, the lack of games will hurt Ohio State. So New Year's Day, tomorrow, I will probably get out some instant analysis on Georgia, Cincinnati, and or Auburn and Northwestern. Then, of course, the big games. So between Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, Clemson, if there's a gap between the two games, I'll be here, and there should be. The network does not like running right one game into the other one because they can squeeze a lot of commercial time out and do a lot of analysis and pregame and have people tuning in for no reason. So there will be a gap between the two games, and we'll be here to set it up, especially if Alabama pounds Notre Dame and it's a 30-point game in the fourth quarter. We'll just jump on and talk. Then after the two games, of course, late night about midnight, we'll come on after Ohio State, and Clemson. So that's our New Year's Day schedule. Then on Saturday, we've got a lot of good games, and we'll be on at least late night and probably do some instant analysis through the day with the Fiesta Bowl and the Outback Bowl and whoever else is playing on Saturday. So we get a note here from Andrew. I jotted down Clemson, Ohio State. Now I forget what you put down there. Oh, asking for my prediction, Andrew. So that's over on Patreon. I've got to honor their contributions because that's one of the perks over there is that they get my predictions. So you can join Patreon, Mark Rogers TV. Just search it on Patreon or grab the link in the description section. It's 15 cents per day. Actually, more technically, I'm sorry, 16 cents per day. Tony, thank you for saying that you'll drop those links in social media. Thank you so much. In Parler and another thing called a Rumbler. Rumbler? Never heard of that. Rumble. Rumble. That's what it is. Rumble. Haven't heard of that. It's all Parler and Rumble. Thank you, Tony. Whoever suggested that I bring on Mike Griffiths of Dog Nation and also TJ LSU Dad, I will look them up and we'll get them on here if they would like to. Cheryl is fair. Here's the deal about Cheryl disciplining anybody on the live chat. We want all of you to have fun. We want you to be able to trash talk. If you're going to make fun of other people's teams, go to it. That's why we're here. Trash talk all you want. Let's not bring politics into it. Let's not bring race into it. Let's not bring gender into it. And let's limit the profanity. I don't have a real good beat on what YouTube detects in terms of profanity. I really don't. I know that most times it seems to be better these days, but for a long time there, I do a live stream, and as soon as I'd look at it, I'd get flagged for some type of inappropriate content, and they never told me what it was. And it wasn't the end of the world. They didn't take down the video, but they just said that they would limit my revenue. My ad revenue would be cut because of inappropriate language. And because that doesn't come out of my mouth, and I would know if it came out of a caller's mouth on that particular night, I figured it must have been in the live chat. So Cheryl is just making sure that everybody's having a good time and everybody is trash talking in a respectable way. I know those two terms don't really coincide, trash talking respectably, but you know what I mean. Just have fun, trash talk. You can get after each other all you want. No race, no gender, no politics, and no name calling that's really severe. Okay? I apologize. We wanted to do a Miami show today at 4, and I got to tell you, I completely forgot about it. That was not the Wholesome Ones issue. We had a planned 4 o'clock show. I was taking care of personal business, and I keep a calendar for a reason, and I just forgot to look at my calendar. And our Nebraska Live show, we skipped it for this week because of the holiday. Tony's asking me, have you met Rick Carl? Are we talking about Rick Carlisle? Should I look this person up? Rick Carl. I do not know that individual. I can look him up. Rick Carl. Tony, who is Rick Carl? Is he a media guy? College football guy? Oh, there we go, Michael. Michael might have done a Google search on this one. I was talking about the Huntsville, Alabama TV station that offered me a job in 1999 as their sports, not the sports director. I was the sports director at WCBI in Columbus, Mississippi at the time. And they offered me a job to be their sports anchor for the 5 o'clock and these 10 o'clock shows, or the 6 and 10, whatever it was. That looked familiar right there. Channel 31 WAYY. Yes, that must be it, Michael. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look back on the old television career. I was offered a job in Evansville, Indiana, Portland, Maine, Chattanooga, Tennessee at a Fox station. I believe NCIS Fanatic 21 that Ohio State does play today. Cheryl is the best in the business. Absolutely, Alabama football fan, roll tide. Best in the business. Please hit the like button for me, but pat Cheryl on the back. She does a phenomenal job. Boomer, when it comes to that game last year, I think we'll set this aside, but I'm going to say one last time that Ohio State should not make excuses. They blew that game. They had the opportunities in the first half to run away with that game. They didn't cash in. They had the ball with their hands on it and driving into the red zone. Look at the end of that game. They were at the 22-yard line with plenty of time left, like 45, 50 seconds. I think it was a first down even. And then, of course, the miscommunication between Justin Fields and Chris Olave and the interception that was not a play on the ball. It was a gift. Okay. Ohio State blew the game. Clemson with Trevor Lawrence running and with Travis Etienne coming out of the backfield as a pass receiver. Those were the two main factors in Clemson coming back for the win. But there were three, I would lean toward bad calls. Not egregiously bad, like rip-off calls, like there is no way you could justify the call. But there were three questionable calls that I thought were bad calls that were enormous in that game. We had our Clemson guys on this week, and I served it up to them. And, of course, they all said, oh, the calls didn't matter. The calls were legit. This is where the officials need to back away from calling every little nth degree of the rule book. I will take the roughing the punter call into question. So if you remember the game last year, and Clemson and Ohio State fans will in particular, Clemson had a touchdown drive that was only possible because they were stopped. Ohio State stopped them on third down. Clemson was punting from their own 15 or 20-yard line. Ohio State would have had great field position. Ohio State ran into the punter. Could you call it roughing? I guess you could because the officials did. Should you really? I just hate – basically, they ran into the punter. He didn't get flipped. He didn't get turned over. They ran into him. That would not have been a first down. They would have had to just accept the penalty or punt again if they wanted to with the yardage. Ohio State ran into the punter. Clemson got the 15 yards. It brought them out from maybe the 15-yard line to the 30. That doesn't excuse Ohio State from not stopping them on defense because Clemson still had to drive it down the field for the touchdown. But they had that possession in better field position because of the bad call by the officials. And maybe by the letter of the law, maybe it was roughing, but why take the game out of the hands of the players? Yes, you have to call penalties when they are obvious and blatant, but that just made no sense. The targeting on Shaun Wade, that was a bad call. I don't care what anyone says, it was a bad call. And you completely change the game making that call. You go from Clemson's off the field. They got stopped. It's fourth down and long. They're punting. 4 minutes left in the first half. 16-0 game. You completely change the game. You go from Clemson gets 15 yards and a first down. They're in scoring range. And they score about 3 to 4 plays later. And you take Ohio State's second best cornerback off the field and future, most likely first-round pick, Shaun Wade, out of the game versus Ohio State taking over with the ball at maybe their 20 or 25-yard line with 4 minutes left in the first half, leading 16-0. Completely different scenario. Completely different. Most likely, Ohio State could get to the locker room at 16-0, not 16-14. But it's over. It's over. Clemson won. Did they win fair and square? They had nothing to do with it. I love when people get on here and they call Ohio State cheaters for the 0-2 championship game, and they call maybe Clemson cheaters for last year's game, other fans. Okay, the teams don't cheat. Maybe they do in other ways. We will never know or don't know at this point. Like the New England Patriots have cheated by videotaping the Los Angeles Rams or the St. Louis Rams practices before their Super Bowl meeting in 2001. That's cheating. But the officials make the calls on the field. The teams do not cheat. All right, I just had to go on that rampage there. And then, of course, the strip on the fumble. I just don't understand how a player can catch a football, lift it up in the air to avoid contact with the DB, turn, take 3 steps, lose the ball, have it stripped out of his hands, and that not be a fumble. I just don't understand how that's not a fumble. How is that not a fumble? I don't get it.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to the call will start at the beep.
I think we've all played catch a number of times in our lives, enough to know what a catch is. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
Hey, George.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. How you doing?
All right.
Happy New Year.
I feel like the whole college football nation is missing something, right? Like Oklahoma went into the game playing Florida, big-ass, badass Florida, right? And they just beat them into the ground, right?
Yeah.
I don't think people are enjoying that victory enough. I'm so happy for Oklahoma. I really am.
George.
Florida had a good year.
Wow.
That was just, what they did to us was just incredible.
I think we got this out of you last night, right? All the
I'm just saying,
Oklahoma
I was
cheerleading.
thinking, I was moving to Florida, and I was thinking maybe I'll just go to Oklahoma instead, you know?
Well, it's a shorter trip. When is the big move?
It's a tour trip.
When is the big
Hey,
move,
Mark.
George?
When's the big what?
The big move.
But it's within days.
All right. Well, keep us
And Mark,
updated.
you know what I'm doing right now? Mark, I have 4 sons that live within 5 miles of me.
Yeah.
And I told them I'm leaving. You have to clean out my apartment. And they're all just yelling at me right now, like, why do we have to do this? Come on, Dad. And I'm like, whatever. I'm taking my clothes and my papers and I'm leaving. It's just, isn't it great when you have 4 boys, 4 grown boys, all over 25 years old, 25 to 48, you know? Like, they'll do whatever I tell them to do.
You have boys that range in age from 25 to 48?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm 60. My first kid was born when I was like 14.
Okay.
I mean,
We'll not get into that
Mark,
story.
Literally, Mark, I was a dairyman. I used to be a dairyman, and all these boys used to come out with me at night and help me round up all the cattle and at 3 a.m. and do whatever we had to do. I mean, they are well experienced at life. We had like 800 cows to wrangle and everything. I taught them to drive forklifts and front-end loaders and how to plow a field, you know?
Nice.
Mark,
Yes.
I'm moving to Sarasota, Florida. I'm going to be off the airwaves for like a week because I have to drive to Florida.
Okay.
It's a long way from Oregon.
You're not going to be able to keep us updated on your travels?
Hey, you know what? I might actually post some videos about that shit.
Yeah,
It's
that'd
going to
be
be
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't own a gun. I wish I had a 45 to put under my pillow when I sleep at a rest stop, and I'm the only car there. You know, it's kind of scary.
Kind of scary. Is anyone going with you?
All the way from Oregon to Florida. That's kind of scary.
That's that's a haul. That is a haul, George.
I gotta sleep.
When are you leaving? I'm gonna take this call here in a second. When are you taking this this trip? When do you leave?
In the next 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
And,
All right.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I live on government benefits. I'm an honorably discharged Air Force veteran.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you. But I'm just saying, I have organized all this. I've contacted all the appropriate agencies, you know. I'm like, I got the government behind me.
Jeff Lynn in the live chat has asked you to write a book. Maybe you can write the book. And
Jeff, the book is actually coming out soon. It's already written. Good question, though.
it is, absolutely. It would be a good read.
Hey, Mark, I want to tell you something. All those jokes I make about smoking marijuana,
Sure.
that's all a joke, man.
Is it
I'm
really?
way more serious than that. You know, I don't really just smoke pot and make jokes. I do other stuff.
Well, we are entertained by it, George. There's no question about that.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it?
You're an entertainer.
I feel like a minor celebrity thanks to you and Uncle Lou and Pigskin Pete. There's this son of a bitch in the chat section called George. You know, it's a lot of fun. I love it.
David let us know that he wants you to include pictures in your book.
I will. Not only pictures, but actual live video.
That's phenomenal. I might get into the ebook business myself, but it won't be quite as entertaining as you. It'll be a lot of boring analytics about college football.
I know.
But,
I'm eccentric. You're normal. We have different paths in life.
that's a good way to put it.
You're Dean Martin. I'm Jerry Lewis.
That's a good way to put it right there. I hope some people out there understand that analogy. That's a good one right there.
This is a good one. All right, it's going to be a wild next 5 days while I drive from Oregon to Florida.
It sounds like it's going to be a wild ride. We want you to stay safe and obey the traffic laws and so forth, and check in with us if you can.
Especially going through East Texas. You got to keep it under 95.
Keep it under 95.
Yeah.
I once could barely stay awake driving back from Ohio to Connecticut, and I averaged about 96 miles an hour overnight. I just went nuts.
Those were the good old days.
Those were the good old days, yes. All right, George.
My brother is a truck. My brother's a truck driver.
Yes.
And he entered Oregon once, and he exited in Washington, and the cops stopped him at the border, and they said, in order for you to have exited Oregon this fast, you had to be going like 112 miles an hour or something. They actually tracked his GPS. They were like, what the fuck? And he was like, what the fuck? You follow me? They can actually track you now, like your miles per hour.
They can do anything.
So if you're a truck driver,
they can even track how many times you say the F word on YouTube. They can do that as well.
You know what? That's upsetting right there. I was gonna say Happy New Year's, but now I'm gonna say Happy whatever. You know.
All right, George. Keep us posted on your travels if you're able to check in. All right.
All right, white sandy beaches and blue skies. That's where I'm going.
There you go. All right, George. Have a good night.
I'll see you guys later.
All right, Jeff Lynn. Okay, I always appreciate your support. You know that, Jeff. Calling me top notch. I appreciate that. But you know what? Maybe I have admitted that I don't believe that anyone is able to completely keep their objectivity. I agree with that. As Ohio State was the victim of those bad calls in the playoff game, I was actually thinking, oh boy, when I get on my channel and tell it like it is, people are going to be like, oh, Ohio State homer. And I just have to tell it like it is. If I'm going to be worried about that, then I wouldn't. But if that could have been Clemson and Oregon, I'd be saying the same thing. I'd be saying exactly the same thing. Jeff, if you were here in 2016, Mr. Objectivity here, when Ohio State was selected for the playoff, was saying Ohio State should not be in the playoff. They didn't win the conference. They shouldn't be in the playoff. They lost to Penn State head-to-head. Penn State should be in the playoff. Okay. Number one ND fan, our secondary is weak. We need to get pressure. We're getting cooked. I think you're going to get cooked. Cincinnati will murder Florida or Georgia. FSU Gnome, Happy New Year to you as well. Good to see you on here. We've got our Florida State show every Wednesday night, folks, at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And contrary to what it might seem on that show, I do host the show. Our guy, Jason Parker, does not host that show. I am still the host of that show. Hey, Ben. Good to see you there. Pulling for the Buckeyes. Absolutely. James Scott, it's okay for you to have your opinion, Mark. Doesn't mean it's correct. Sure. So when I state my opinion, I differentiate between, you know what? This is my opinion, but I've got a stack of evidence, facts, truth that backs it up. So this is pretty much fact. Even though it's an opinion and it can't be proven 100%, it's tough to argue. Versus those opinions that are just like, hey, who's a better quarterback? Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence. Okay, we can't distinguish that. That is a true opinion. Of course, Ben. Mo is telling us that Notre Dame will block a punt. Okay? Everybody jump online and find yourself a prop bet on that. Murder Blaze, ready to go. Atheists for the cause. Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to get destroyed, possibly. Cincinnati is beating Georgia, according to number one ND fan. Oh, gee, Buckeye. Yes, probably just lost about $5. Plus, I lose money on the phone calls. Oh, number one ND fan, I appreciate you being here all the time for us, but I got to educate you on the 18 playoff. Got to educate you. It's not going to make anything meaningless. It's going to make it more meaningful. All right, folks. Where did those 500 people go that were on here last night? We hit almost 491 and about 9,000 for the rewatch. So we need to hit those kind of numbers on a regular basis. So I appreciate everybody that's in here, everybody that I've already mentioned and acknowledged in the chat, in addition to Shanktopotamus, I see. So thank you so much for jumping on here. What we're going to do tomorrow I'll be on between the Notre Dame, Alabama, and Ohio State Clemson games, which means if the Notre Dame, Alabama game is going to be close, if the game's going to be close, then we'll not come on until the end of the game. But if it's 42-14 in the fourth quarter, then we'll be here. We'll start talking about the next game and analyzing everything and taking your calls while the game's still on, if it's a blowout. If not, we'll come on between games for that 20 or 25 minutes, whatever it turns out to be. We'll be on between the games, taking your calls. And then after Clemson, Ohio State, let's get 600 on the line tomorrow night. Hockey D, do I have PayPal? Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for asking. I will let all of you know that while I appreciate the super chats, and please consider contributing in that fashion, you can also go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, and search Mark Rogers TV. So just go to PayPal there, Hockey D. Thank you so much for asking. Couldn't find it. How do I get you there? I'm under Mark Rogers TV. Maybe on PayPal it's just Mark Rogers. You know what? This is worthwhile right here for me to look this up. Let's go to PayPal. PayPal, here we are. Log in. So I guess I'm just under Mark Rogers, I guess. I don't know how to find this out. Yeah, I'm just under Mark Rogers, so that would be kind of tough to find me there. Let's do this. Here you go. Go to, I wonder if you can find it if I go like this. Hockey D, I appreciate you asking. There's the link. If that's going to get you there. I don't know if maybe only I can get into that link. But there's the link to PayPal, Hockey D. And again, thank you so much for asking that. There is a benefit to me when you go through Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal rather than the Super Chat. But either way, whatever you need to do. James Scott, an 18 playoff may actually help more teams recruit better in the long run. Yeah, agreed. All right, we got a big day tomorrow. I think I'm going to, we've only got 59 on the line, so this thing is taking a slow grind to a halt. So thank you so much, everyone. I just wanted to jump on here, and now it's been an hour and 25 minutes. I just wanted to jump on here and say Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much for your support. 2021 is going to be amazing. It's going to be a great year. I hope and I pray for you and for me personally, for Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Jeff Lynn had said 25,000 are coming soon. Yes, they are. 25,000 subscribers. Hopefully we can get there in about a month. We're adding about 1,000 a month. I would love to do much better than that, but that's where we are right now. I will be thankful and grateful for the 1,000 added per month. But if we could get that more in the 3,000 to 5,000 range per month, that would be phenomenal. Get us toward 50,000 by the end of 2021. And join us on Patreon. Just go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, and join us right there. Notre Dame, Alabama post right here for the call-in show. We'll see you then. Thank you. David, thanks. Great to see you. Yeah, I saw the kick in the head. Mississippi State, Tulsa. Murder Blaze, appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you so much. See you tomorrow.